This is the Horror Movie Show on hmpod.com, your one-stop shop for all things horrific and horror-related. Read the reviews, frolic in the forum, hem and haw over the horoscopes, and listen mightily to the Horror Movie Show with Mark and Jerry, your horrible hosts. Good day, folks. Jerry here.
And Mark.
Bringing you the latest episode of the Horror Movie Show on hmpod.com, also on iTunes. And check out our Facebook page. Just do a quick search for Horror Movie Show, and it'll take you right to our new and improved Facebook page.
Yeehaw!
Yeah, absolutely wonderful.
You gotta love that.
Yeah. I've had a cold for the last couple of weeks, so if I sound out of sorts, it's probably because of something Mark said.
Yes, I'm always making a faux pas.
Yes. Well, frankly, you make me sick, so what can I say?
You're always sick.
Yeah, I always say that. Okay. So we got a bunch of movies, some of them new movies. We're going to start with Man of Steel, and my darling Trixie last night said, what the heck are you doing Man of Steel for?
Yeah.
That's not a horror movie. But as I explained to her, it's sort of along the lines of an invasion movie. It
is in this case.
Creatures from another planet, most of whom don't mean us well.
Yeah,
so
just because they happen to look like us doesn't
Yeah.
mean that they're any less evil.
Sort of like John Carpenter's The Thing.
Exactly. Yeah, there are sections of this movie that are kind of horrific.
Oh, yeah, absolutely there are. The only monsters we see are near the beginning on the planet of Krypton.
Which are cool.
Fly around on giant insects or dragons or some combo of the two.
Tell us who stars in it, and then we'll get into the storyline.
Okay, just want to warn you folks, there'll probably be spoilers. As always, I was thinking we should change the name to the Spoiler Movie Show.
Mm-hmm.
Or the Horror Spoiler Show.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway,
spoiled horror.
So, Man of Steel, 2013, directed by Zack Snyder, written by David S. Goyer. It stars Henry Cavill as Kal-El and Superman, Amy Adams as Lois Lane, Michael Shannon, always like him, as General Zod, Diane Lane is Mother Martha Kent, Kevin Costner, that man of action, is Jonathan Kent. Russell Crowe plays Superman's biological dad, Jor-El. Christopher Maloney plays Colonel Hardy, evidently the only person working in the American military, because he's everywhere. And Lawrence Fishburne plays Perry White, which I think is an interesting choice, because unlike, say, Sam Raimi's 3 Spider-Man movies, where they found a guy, J.K. Simmons, who looked just like the editor in the Spider-Man comics.
And he was great in it.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe because I've seen him in a couple movies lately.
Right.
And he's so different from that character. You wouldn't even think it was him.
He's very good. He was the dad in Juno.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he can do everything. He's one of my favorite actors. He can be so funny, and he can be very serious. He can be very touching.
Yeah. The makeup was really good in Spider-Man because it kind of made him have a flat head.
Yeah, the brush
flat
cut.
Head, and his mannerisms were spot on.
Oh yeah, and he had the gruff manner and the unpleasantness of J.J. Jameson.
And he was one of the best things in the office there, because it was like he kept ranting. His rants were wonderful.
Yeah, well, really, the only other character with any lines in the office was Ted Raimi, Sam's little brother.
Yeah.
And he was really just the foil for Jameson.
And that's one of the things about Man of Steel. They really didn't get much into the Daily Planet. This is before he gets Clark Kent
gets the job.
And they really changed the whole story, the mythos of Superman. You know,
I give you my honest opinion. I was disappointed.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people, I was disappointed. They've got all the special effects. They've got all the money in the world. You know, they could bankrupt
$225 million.
Yeah, they could bankrupt Krypton with the amount that they spent. And it's still, you know, kind of mediocre. Now, one problem that I see again and again on the interwebs is that people are upset that Superman makes a decision at the end to finish off Zod.
Boy, you're really giving it away.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, it's more or less a remake of the first 2 Christopher Reeves Superman movies.
Yeah, in some respect.
Yeah, you know, the General Zod, you see him at the beginning of the first Superman with Christopher. Then he's the villain in the second movie. movie.
Yeah.
And by the end of that movie, Superman's killed the three maniacs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have. They've changed a lot of it. I gave up reading Superman comics when I was about 11 or 12. Then I switched to Mad Magazine and very quickly after that into National Lampoon. But
so what are you saying?
I'm
you grew up?
I'm saying that Superman that I grew up reading was pretty much the classic Superman, and I think the best Superman from through the 60s.
You got to read the last 10 years Superman. There's been a lot of series. They have a tendency to do short series, like a 5 or 6 issue kind of series.
They do that,
and then they make them into, and then they eventually make them into trade paperbacks and things like that. A lot of the dialogue, the soliloquies in here, are taken from different series of comics. And it's interesting because they're trying to mix-mash a number of different storylines together, and it doesn't work in the movie.
No.
It worked very well in the comics. And if they would have just taken one of the series and made a movie of that, it would have made much more sense.
Well, exactly. I don't understand why it was such a mess. And it just seems using Zod,
yeah. He reminded me of the Romulan that J.J. Abrams used in the first Star Trek movie. He's pissed off for like 20 years waiting for Spock to come through the door.
Oh, Romulan.
Yeah, Romulan.
Yes.
And this one, same with Zod. He waits 35 years.
33 years, he said.
Yeah, to get back. And he's still pissed as the day it happened.
Well, that's sort of explained, and I like this aspect of the story. It's explained that Kal-El's birth was the first natural birth in like thousands of years on Krypton. That they've gone to a system of artificial crutches, whatever.
They're basically they're making people to suit their profession, kind of thing.
That's right. So you know from birth that you're good at one thing, and that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And obviously that hasn't worked for them because they haven't made enough smart people to know that sucking the juice out of the middle of their planet is going to cause it to implode.
That was another thing that pissed me off about this movie is the fact that there's all these scientists hanging around and only one person knows that the planet is doomed.
Well, and that goes back to the first movie with Christopher Reeve. Marlon Brando is like, I'm telling you, this is a bad thing. Like, stop it. We're
and they've changed it from their sun blowing up to the actual core of Krypton blowing up.
Yeah, it implodes and then explodes.
Yeah.
I noticed they very conveniently left out any of the nonsense, well, I'll call it nonsense, about kryptonite.
Oh, yeah.
Any of that stuff. Also, the fact that ship was manufactured on Krypton, in the old comic books, that ship would have been a super ship.
Yeah.
It would have been indestructible.
Yeah, you would think.
Well, that's the way everything was. Everything that came from the planet Krypton. Like, if Superman needed to shave, he had to use Kryptonian metal because steel wouldn't cut his beard.
Yeah. They never get into that in this movie.
No, he's got a little beard and then he's clean shaven. And,
in some comics, I remembered he had to use his heat vision in order to shave and things like
clean
that.
Himself up.
Yeah,
there's lots of heat vision in this, which I thought was a very nice effect.
That was the other thing about Zod, they get to Earth and suddenly their powers start to manifest, right?
Well, only when they start breathing the atmosphere.
Yeah, and all of a sudden he's being inundated with all these sounds that he doesn't know how to focus in on any. And what does Superman do?
He tells him how to beat it.
Yeah. I'm going, what an idiot.
I thought that
this is the point where you defeat him.
Yeah,
he is
blind and deaf.
Yeah.
I know. And Superman goes, it's a bitch, ain't it?
Yeah, my dad told me to do this.
Yeah, it worked.
God.
Yeah, it's really dumb. So Superman, well, I can't say he was ever the smartest of the superheroes. Batman, was always the one who had to use his brains in the world's finest. Superman was just there for muscle.
I found it interesting that most of the time his cape was CGI'd in. He didn't wear a real cape.
Right.
And at one point, Zod grabs his cape and whack. And I'm going, this is the Incredibles. That's why you never have a cape.
No, capes are dumb. It's like long hair on a midget
But they
wrestler.
only did it once, where he grabbed his cape and smacked them around a bit.
No, actually, the big guy does it, and Zod does it.
Does he?
Yeah. Zod does it up in the air. The big guy does it on the ground.
Yeah. But the things about this movie is it was only a part of his mythos. This is the beginning. So there's no Jimmy Olsen. There's no daily life of Clark Kent, really. No. You really don't center on that.
We do see a lot of the Daily Planet, Perry White, and Lois Lane because of Lois Lane. And she's in there early.
And then she never, fooled by his identity. She knows him from day one, right?
As anyone would.
Yes, which is probably the only thing that makes sense in this movie. Is that, put on a pair of glasses and you don't recognize him.
Yes, and after they've kissed and he's rescued her 100 times and she's helped rescue the Earth, and Clark decides he'll take a job at the Daily Planet, so he'll have an excuse to go to dangerous places and be on top of the news and all that. And so here he is starting his first day. As she's introduced to him, she says, "Welcome to Earth."
Yeah.
Well, no, welcome to the planet. That's what she says, which was just a cute little moment between them.
Russell Crowe is the dad, Jor-El.
Oh man, could he have more gravitas and seriousness?
It's like when he was having these fights, and he was literally hammering some people with his fist, and I'm going, this is just a day at the pub for Russell.
Yeah.
It's like he's not even playing a part here.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny. And, of course, Jonathan Kent.
Oh, God, Kevin Costner is so boring.
And the fact that he sacrifices his life for a dog.
Well, it wasn't just that, but how would it have not been possible for his son, who's not going to get damaged by the hurricane, say, okay, get the dog, I'll take your mom under the shelter. No, I'm frail old dad, let me do it. You look after your mother. Okay, looking after the mom is important, but if you're just going back for the dog, that is stupid.
I know a lot of people love dogs, but they're not worth a human life. I don't care.
Not when the hurricane is like 3 car lengths ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
And bearing down on you rapidly.
I'm sorry, the dog's gotta go.
Yeah, I know, sorry.
And the whole thing about it, you can't show your abilities, they're not going to accept you and all this stuff. Yeah. Well, doesn't he have super speed?
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
Couldn't he have...
Yeah. And he never once uses his super breath. He could have blown the hurricane in another direction.
That's right.
And he wouldn't have even had to show that anything was happening. He could have quietly blown the thing away. But no.
I mean,
well, you get the idea certainly that his powers are growing along with him. And they used Henry to play Clark at that point, but the scene that leads up to that hurricane, he's having a teenage hissy fit in the car. You're not my real parents.
Oh, yeah.
Blah, blah.
Yeah.
So they should have used a kid to play him as a teenager because he looks like Superman at that point. He's a very well-grown, spoiled brat, if that's what he is.
Yeah. There's a lot of things about this movie.
And there's lots of people who know his identity, too.
And the fact that, when he's fighting the Zod in Metropolis, and they're knocking down skyscrapers.
Oh, man, the slaughter of the human beings.
And the fact that he doesn't want to lead him away from the city. He keeps him in the city.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, what the hell? And especially he gets knocked up into space. Yeah. And of all the odds, they hit a satellite of some sort. Yeah. Now, what are the odds? Well, there's a lot of space up.
All Superman had to do, and I couldn't understand why he didn't do this, was to grab any one of these 3 villains that he's fighting on the ground, zoom them into space, rip their masks off, and they're going to die. Because they're not super yet.
Yeah.
But, he's supposed to be, all about saving life and not taking it.
And so they knock down skyscrapers.
And also, Metropolis is New York. There's no question as to what city Metropolis is based on. And Lois Lane manages to sort of tiptoe around this square miles of wreckage and always be right wherever Superman is setting down. She's in the park. She's in Grand Central Station. She's, down by wherever the World Trade Centers used to be. She's here, there, and everywhere all at once. And the subways aren't even running.
Yeah.
How is she getting from here to there?
Yeah. And the fact that when these buildings fall, there's no dust. I mean, we all know that the whole place would have been just covered with dust.
Yeah. You would have been blind.
Yeah, and choked.
Yeah.
So it's like not very realistic.
No,
and the fact that they went through so many buildings.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, one building after another. And also, each time that Superman or a villain is thrown through one of these skyscrapers, it explodes.
Yeah.
Why would it explode? I mean, there were explosions on 9/11, but those planes were packed full of jet fuel.
Yeah.
That's why there was explosions. You throw a boulder through a building, the building doesn't burst into flames.
No.
It might fall over, but it's not going to burn.
No, not explode.
Very weird. Who's the director? It's Zack Snyder. I just think he had too much money. The script is weak. Too much money.
Well, actually, Christopher Nolan helped develop the script.
Right.
Before Zack Snyder was even appointed to the position. Another person that they were considering is Ben Affleck being the director.
Oh, okay.
He turned it down because he figured it was too big for him. Too much CGI kind of thing. He didn't know how to direct that.
Well, I'll tell you, it was so dry as well. There was virtually no humor in it.
Oh, that was another thing. There's like no humor. They're trying to be Batman.
Yeah.
It's like they're trying to do the Christopher Nolan movies, and I guess he had a hand in it. But at the same time, Superman isn't Batman.
No.
At all.
I know.
And I liked the humor that was in the original
the ones with
Christopher Reeves.
Yeah.
The first couple, those were fine. They were okay. And they had a right amount of humor in it.
I much preferred the second Christopher Reeves Superman movie, the one with Zod, to this one. Simply because of all those Christopher Reeves Superman movies, it captured, for me, the flavor of what the Superman comics were when I was a kid reading them. That seemed most like those Superman comics. This one, you say, they're cherry picking from a whole slew of recent comics. But just didn't seem like the Superman that I grew up loving.
Yeah. It failed in so many different ways. And plus the fact that it looked a lot like black and white in a lot of areas. It's like it was a very dull movie.
Oh, it was very dark.
It wasn't a very colorful movie, which was very reminiscent of the Batman movies.
Yeah.
It's like, this is not a Batman movie.
Yeah, they try to make it film noir. Yeah, right down to the fact that he's wearing his silly suit and it's almost black.
Yeah.
Just because that sky blue, it looks sissy.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Well, they had to do the same thing with Wolverine.
Yeah, he's not yellow.
Dressing him all in bright banana yellow would have really changed the seriousness of that character.
This is true, but they did that with just about all of the costumes in the X-Men.
But those X-Men movies, there's humor in them.
Yes.
They're three-dimensional characters because they're sad, they're cracking jokes, they're smart-asses, as one would be. You see joy on young Superman's face when he first starts flying and he sort of goes yippee or something.
Yeah.
And then he immediately goes into a fall and he's, screaming in terror. And of course, it doesn't hurt him when he crashes into a mountain and blows it up. I'm surprised there wasn't flaming explosion when he hit it.
Yeah.
It was just, to me, a waste of valuable resources.
I'll have to watch it again. I want to see if my mind changes on anything.
Yeah.
It was just too much happening with the fighting and all that crap.
Yeah, it's mostly fighting.
I mean, it's like, they really don't need to make a Superman movie like that.
No.
We know he's strong.
Yeah.
We know he has... I'd rather see a villain that is more cerebral.
I know. I want Brainiac. That's what I want. And that's probably my biggest complaint against the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, is that they made Lex Luthor into a joke. There was nothing menacing about
he could have had a black humor to him. A lot of black humor.
He's supposed to be the
mastermind,
the cleverest mastermind criminal on the planet.
Yeah.
And who does he employ? Valerie Perrine and Ned Beatty. You know?
Yeah.
Does he keep Ned Beatty around in case hillbillies show up?
Yeah.
He can offer Ned as a party treat. I just didn't understand. You know, oh, you got it, Mr. Luthor. Jeez, that was really silly.
Actually, it was really silly, but at the same time, the humor was funny.
Well, at least there was humor.
Yeah.
This one, I swear there wasn't a laugh from the audience until Welcome to the Planet. It's the last 5 minutes of the movie.
I really missed that as well, because I think nobody grows up in that much seriousness.
No.
Kansas life can't be that tough.
My God, it's dull there. Hey?
Yeah, God, and no sense of humor at all.
Kansas school.
And even Pete Ross, or he was supposed to be his buddy in the comics in Smallville.
Is he the one
who
asshole? Winds up working for the IHOP?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a swine when he's a boy, but he changes his tune. Although everybody's sure willing to talk to Lois Lane and just blow the gaff on Superman. Yeah, sure, I'll tell you who he is. Go see his mom. She lives right over there. Ma Kent. Now, have you heard this thing online that's upsetting some people, that there are way too many parallels between Superman and Jesus Christ?
Oh, God.
I did watch it a second time, and so I was conscious of that.
Wasn't Jesus Christ based on another person?
Yeah, that's an old Egyptian myth. But in any case, yes, there are definitely parallels when the kid, Superman, Kal-El, is talking to his adopted dad, saying, did God do this to me? You know, well, we just have to accept, you know, and grow up and see what's in store. But you're full of good. You're a force for good, you know. And it is like he dies again and again and is resurrected. And in fact, I think it's Warner Brothers made this movie.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers put out a package sent around to American pastors saying, we can give you clips and you can write your sermon. In fact, they had like talking points for sermons about getting the Christian message out of Superman and getting good Christian lessons. Of course, it's just a cynical money grab. Mm. But the article I read online had lots of comments. Some pastors all for this because, of course, you know, people are staying away from the church more and more. Other pastors going, yeah, this is great, love it. You know, it's good to see a Christian Superman.
Yeah, even though he is alien.
Well, but he's super patriotic. They really didn't leave that out the way they always have. You know, they
want in other stories he's more of a worldly hero and a less American hero. I like the fact that at the end, and this came from one of the comics too, where, you know, they had a spy satellite up there, and he just takes it right down, smashes it into the ground, and says, "You're not going to find out who I am.
I know you want to know where I hang my cape, but I'm not going to let you."
Yeah, and that's directly from one of the comics.
Okay.
So there's quite a few little things here and there that came from it. So it's interesting because what I figure the writers did is read all the latest short series and the ones that are classics considered by the comic industry, and they just stole from all of them.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, come on.
Yeah, that's what they do in Hollywood.
And the thing is that they are making cartoons of all these different series. Right. And I mean, I've seen about 4 of them that recently in the last couple of years that have come out for Superman. And the latest one, Superman Unbound, is an anime.
Right.
Done by Japanese.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is really weird.
Yeah. It's just cheap to get it done there.
No, but it's anime style.
Right.
It's not just them.
I know. I hate that. I've seen some anime lately, and I just never.
It was a weird take on Superman, I tell you. But anyway.
All right. Well, let's get off that. Obviously, Mark and I do not recommend Man of Steel. If you want mindless violence and 3D special effects
and things that really don't make sense,
then go for it. But
a lot of special effects.
Not looking forward to the sequel. Now, our next movie I really liked, Byzantium. It's a 2012 Irish, British, American co-production. Directed by Neil Jordan, written by Moira Buffini, based on her stage play, which is interesting. It stars, let me see if I can pronounce this correctly. I looked it up on Wiki. Saoirse, Saoirse. It's Gaelic, and it means freedom in the Irish language. Saoirse, I think. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. Ronan is her last name. She plays Eleanor. Gemma Atherton plays Clara, her big sister. No, it's not her big sister.
Little?
They say that it's her sister, but it's not actually her sister. And Daniel Mays plays Noel. This is basically a vampire movie,
yes,
but done very stylishly. They call them revenants. They don't ever call them vampires. But they live on human blood, but they can walk around during the daytime.
I love the way this movie kind of like unfolded. It starts in the middle of the story, really, and jumps around and tells little snippets of the past and how they got there and little things.
Like I talk too much. You tell us what happened.
These two girls really making their way through life, in immortal life, really. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to get by without getting killed.
They're a couple of 100 years old.
One is makes her way by being a prostitute, or she's the money girl.
Yeah.
And the younger one of the two, which I don't know how much younger, because they're both old.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
the younger one we know is
stuck at 16.
200. Yeah.
She's stuck at 16, but she's over 200 years old.
Yeah.
She isn't sexually active as her counterpart is, because she's 5 or 6 years older than her or whatever.
Well, I think it's just their personality.
And plus she's...
Gemma's character is willing to do anything.
Yeah, to make a buck.
Yeah.
And, of course, she's immortal, so I guess she's immune to all the diseases and all that stuff like that.
One assumes.
And she meets a guy that his mother just died.
Yeah, he's a real sad case.
His mother left him this huge sort of a hotel kind of thing.
Yeah, it was a B&B.
Not a lot of rooms. It's sort of the upper half of a commercial district.
Yeah.
And they have to go up an elevator to get to it.
Got like the top 3 or 4 floors of this building.
Yeah, and so she, being the hooker that she was, says this is a great place to hang out, because she's the one that kind of finds places to live for the younger one.
Yeah, yeah.
And the younger one seems to be just educating herself, but she's 200 years old. You think she'd be finished educating herself.
Yeah, she's very passive, really. Whereas,
and it's like she's this spoiled 16-year-old eternally.
Yeah.
Because she's always whining. You know, oh, we have to move again. Yeah, man, you know, and you're going...
Well, she would just like to be normal. And their feeding habits are interesting, because Clara, the older gal, she feeds violently. And, at her pleasure. And she seems to take pleasure at murdering people, whereas the younger girl, Eleanor...
She doesn't want to kill.
Well, she does, though. But she goes to old folks' homes, and she finds people who are ready to die, and then she finishes them off.
They're waiting for death.
They're more or less grateful.
Yeah.
She gives them a swift and relatively painless end, whereas Clara is
going for anything,
ripping their throats out and wallowing in the gore.
Now, they're being sought after by a group of people.
Yeah, cops specifically.
They're trying to catch them. They're always just a step behind them. They eventually catch up.
Yeah.
And the movie is about how they dance with one another.
The battle.
The battles between these people. So,
but I thought it was.
It was a beautiful movie.
It was really beautifully made. It's well acted, well directed, well written.
Yes.
You know, I always say that. That's the main thing. I would love to see this as a stage play. That must have been something.
Yeah.
Since it takes place in Noel's home for the most part, I can see how you could do a play.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be a lot of outdoor scenes. It would mostly take place in the sort of
you can have a couple scenes with the cabaret where she was originally working at and being mistreated as a prostitute and all these different customers. And then they end up taking some of those customers up to the B&B and doing it there for money.
Yeah.
So... Yeah. I could see it as a stage play.
Yeah. I was surprised. Huge cut above most of the movies that we talk about on this show.
Yes. And it's a delight to find these things.
Yeah.
And this one was recommended to you?
It was, yeah. The folks behind this, Byzantium, sent us an email and link to a copy of it. So it was really nice to see it. And I really would recommend it to anybody. Way better than Superman.
Yeah, I enjoyed it better than... It isn't all gore. Even the parts where she's ripping out people's throats is not that gory. I mean, it could have been a lot more excessive.
Yeah.
It's a really nice story about two vampires.
Yeah. They're not, the Anne Rice, garlic and sunlight and
none of that stuff at all.
We got time to talk about a couple more movies. This is one that Mark found for us. I'll hold it against him forever.
I read another review saying that the title sounds great.
Yeah. The title is Chupacabra versus the Alamo. 2013 made-for-TV movie. In fact, made for the Syfy channel.
Okay.
And I've never seen a good movie from the Syfy channel.
I've seen a couple that were
seen
decent. They weren't. They were made for TV movies.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. And this one obviously was to fill their quota of Latino.
I think so.
Content.
Yeah. Even though it was.
It's directed by Terry Ingram, written by Peter Sullivan, who are not Latinos, I would guess. It stars Erik Estrada as Carlos Seguin, Julia Benson as Tracy Taylor, Jorge Vargas as Spider, or Loki the dog is the Chupacabra.
These Chupacabras, they were so poorly done.
Yeah.
They look like small dogs.
Well, the CGI
with no skin.
Yeah.
And the fact that
the Resident Evil dogs only like Chihuahuas.
Yeah. They were so small, and they looked like they weighed like maybe 40 to 50 pounds.
Yeah.
And they're hauling these 200 to 300 pound people into the dark.
Yeah.
It's like they're hauling them around, just one of them.
Yeah.
And you're going, how is that possible?
Indeed. Well, of course, they try to explain it. They try to make these things look a lot more fearsome because there's a huge pack of them, like hundreds of them.
Well,
yes, they're rabid.
Yeah, not only they want to kill you, they're rabid. Erik Estrada is so bad.
It is. He always has been.
I swear, they had a whole day's worth of shoots with him in front of a green screen and on a fake motorcycle, just sitting there riding his motorcycle. Yeah. And they would just cut it into.
I kept wanting to hear the Chips music.
Yeah. And why is he riding a motorcycle in the middle of the San Antonio, which is a very hot place? They would want a car with air conditioning.
Oh, that's a tip of the hat to Chips. You've got to know that is.
Oh,
and I watched this with my buddy David, and
did he like it?
We had many laughs during it. He points out that Erik Estrada's teeth probably glow in the dark. He may have grown up drinking radioactive milk because those chompers of his, they're huge and they are just like shockingly white.
Yeah, I love the fact that he is so dumbfounded on what's killing all these people when they're being mauled. Yeah. And he's quite confident that it is rival gangs.
Yes.
Even though it's obviously that there is an animal involved here somewhere. But no, he doesn't want to believe it. He's a disbeliever of the Chupacabra.
It's so dumb. It is.
And did you recognize some of the places that they shot?
Here in Vancouver, folks.
Yeah. There was Britannia mines. Whenever they were in a mine, it was the Britannia. And it was funny because when they were in the smaller tunnels, I didn't recognize where it was.
Right.
And then they shot one little scene. I said, geez, that looks like Britannia. And then they swung the camera, and it is the big place.
Tourist attraction.
And the other place they shot was Fort Langley.
Yes.
And it's funny.
As the Alamo.
Yeah. Inside the Alamo. Outside, it's all mud and brick and everything. Inside, it's a wooden fort.
Well, they went to San Antonio to shoot exteriors.
Yes.
And then they come to cheap Vancouver, and they make their crappy movie, the majority of it here. Mm-hmm. And I recognize
the gift shop in Fort Langley, and it's like,
Well, the other thing that cracked me up was they're running around in the basement of the Alamo.
Yeah.
Well, we know from Pee-wee's Big Adventure there's no basement at the Alamo,
and the fact that there's some sort of tunnel down there.
Yeah.
That it was
the secret tunnel.
Secret tunnel that comes out in the middle of a parking lot.
Yeah.
It's like, I wonder why no one knew that was there.
But also, the secret tunnel, which is like mythical, the expert who works at the Alamo has heard of it, but has no idea where it is. Oh, wait a second.
Here it is. And I just loved it. It came out in the middle of a parking lot.
Yeah.
With a big metal door.
Yeah.
You know, you're going, well, didn't anyone think to go the other way around?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And they paved around it and everything. You know, it's like if it hadn't been there for 150 years, you think somebody would have mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that at the beginning of the movie they're in this tunnel that drug runners are running to Mexico.
Yeah.
Well,
it's an overpass, is what it is.
And the fact that San Antonio is 100 miles away from Mexico.
The border, yeah.
And that would be the longest cave in the world.
Yeah.
You know,
that's right.
Tunnel in the world.
And this idea that, because the real drug smuggling tunnels are tiny little, like World War II escape tunnels from German.
Yeah, they would pull each other back and forth with rope
and stuff.
And stuff like.
And this, they put their camera inside
a huge
car tunnel on the highway, and they shoot towards the opening. So you have like this huge arch.
Yeah.
There's probably trucks driving over the top of it, but shh, it's secret. And the Chupacabras, you could just see that the CGI, whatever program it is that they were using,
was really cheap.
And the Chupacabras, if you stopped the video and you looked at their positioning, you could see identical. You know,
oh,
they had like
okay.
3 or 4 shapes, and they just, you know,
superimposed them.
One over here, one over here, one over here.
Yeah.
Oh God, it was
so
cheap.
cut and paste.
Yeah. Yeah, not unlike Erik Estrada's teeth. Okay,
I can't say enough bad things about this movie.
I think we've said too much about it.
It had a budget of $2 million.
Jesus, Murphy. You know, caps have to be replaced on.
I'm sure they made their money back, though, with commercials alone.
The Syfy channel, like a lot of TV channels, networks, whatever you want to call them, probably has to produce a certain amount of original material in order to qualify for their license. So, you know, every night they have a new movie on. And this is the sort of crap that they produce.
I've seen a couple that were half decent. They're mostly shot up here, though.
Yeah.
A lot of them are. So obviously they're taking advantage of the bucks being.
Yeah. Well, less and less so now. The BC provincial government is doing its damnedest to kill our local movie and TV industry.
Really?
Yeah, they've eliminated all the tax breaks, and the people in the industry are certainly complaining. I've got a couple of friends working in it who are all up in arms about it. Okay, let's move on to 2 more movies. These are both Korean movies. We have Oldboy, which is a 2003 movie directed by Chan Wook Park, written by Park and a couple of other people. It stars Min Sik Choi as Dae-soo Oh. If you're like me, these names just sort of go by in a blur.
Imagine that.
Hai Jong Kang as Mi-do, the love interest. Ji Tai-woo as Woo Jin Lee. That's an interesting movie to talk about because shortly there, probably this summer, Spike Lee is putting out his remake. Spike Lee is coming out with his version of the same story. I'm sure it'll make more sense. Josh Brolin, Samuel L. Jackson, and of all people, Elizabeth Olsen, one of the Olsen twins, and Michael Imperioli, who was the kid on Sopranos. Yeah, I don't mean the kid. I mean the younger hoodlum on the Sopranos. I liked Oldboy. I thought it was good, but the Koreans, like the Japanese, they have a rather over-the-top way of acting. While they do make naturalistic acting movies, I've seen them, this is not one of them. It's like watching kabuki theater. It's why anime characters can't just open their mouths wide and yell, but they actually have to have big drops of sweat hanging in the air over their heads, you know. I like this movie, and I like the way it was shot and everything. Mm-hmm. And it starts off with this guy he's basically in a drunk tank. He said at the. Let's start with our main character holding a guy off the roof of a skyscraper by his necktie. And says, "I want to tell you my story." And then it starts back in the drunk tank. Okay, yeah. That he's just a drunk. He's just a dope. Drunk old guy. Well, he's not old. He's a family man. In fact, he's quite young at the beginning of his troubles because he's jailed.
He's a jerk.
Years.
He starts fights. He doesn't want. He's just completely. He sobers up through the night.
Yeah,
because he spends a whole night there.
No, he's still quite drunk when his friend comes and bails him out, and then he's talking to his wife on the phone, and then the friend gets on the phone to the wife, and that's when the main character vanishes.
Yeah, he's missed his daughter's birthday.
Yeah,
because he went out and got drunk.
Yeah.
And then, yes, his friend bails him out. He phones his daughter, says, I'm sorry I missed your thing. Let me talk to your mom. He talks to his mom. And then his friend gets on the line, and lo and behold, he disappears.
Yeah.
Next thing you know it, you see him in a cell.
Yeah, it's like a really run-down hotel.
Yeah.
But it's a steel lock.
And they have this little trap door at the bottom where they feed them by. They throw a plate in on the ground. The begging that he does, because at this time he's been there for like 3 months. Just
a couple of months. Yeah. And he says, at least tell me how long I'm going to be here.
And he doesn't know why he's there. Yeah. He doesn't know anything about the circumstances. Yeah. All he knows is he's in this room.
Yeah.
And he has all the conveniences. I mean, he's got a television.
A hotel room.
He's got a television. Yeah. He's got food given to him.
Yeah.
And he seems to be given the same food over and over and over again. These gyozas.
Yeah.
And he gets to
always from the same restaurant.
Yeah, he knows these gyozas so well that they come into play after he gets out to identify where he was.
Little scrap of paper from the delivery bag, the Blue Dragon.
Yeah.
And evidently in Seoul there are hundreds of Blue Dragon restaurants.
Yeah.
So he has to eat.
He has to go to each one of them.
Every single one of these.
Until he finds
dumplings, until he recognizes the dumplings.
But besides that, I mean, he ends up staying there for 15 years. Mm-hmm. And by the end of the 15 years, you can see his mental ability deteriorating over time to the point where he has these conversations with himself and he's ranting and raving and he's trying to dig himself out the wall, the brick wall, with a I don't know, some little small utensil.
It's a metal chopstick.
It was a chopstick, And he works so hard on that, and he gets one brick out, and he's saying, tomorrow I'm getting out, tomorrow I'm getting out, tomorrow I'm getting out. And then lo and behold, the next day he is out.
Yeah.
They actually let him out. He finds himself, I can't remember where, but he's on the ground somewhere.
Yeah.
And he wakes up and he's out.
Yeah. And he can hear on the TV that while he's incarcerated and not doing anything outside of being incarcerated, he's being accused of murders and so on out in the real world.
Yes.
Which is very interesting.
He's accused of murdering his wife.
Yeah, that's right. And I thought that they were going to concentrate more on that. And also, he's regularly put to sleep with Valium gas.
Yeah.
So they can come in
and clean.
And they take the glass that he was using and they put it at the scene of the crime. So his fingerprints are all over the place. Once he's out, he's cleared of all charges. It's just sort of announced to him that, he doesn't have to worry about that. But this is all being done. And I don't want to give too much away because if you haven't seen it, Oldboy is really worth seeing. If you like weird whodunit horror mystery movies. But this is all part of a very elaborate vengeance plot by an old schoolmate of his.
The story's told with flashbacks.
Mm-hmm. So, and from many points of view. Yeah. You see the points of view of several characters. The victim, his daughter, the guy who's enacting revenge.
In a nutshell, he's given 5 days to figure out who's doing this to him, and if he doesn't, then he's going to get killed, and his daughter's going to get killed, and whatever, stuff like that. Yeah. So he has 5 days to figure out what the hell this was all about.
Right.
That's what the movie's about.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of like a reverse whodunit. I just don't understand why Japanese and Korean women, when they're making love, they have to sound like they're being beaten. It's just horrible to listen to the squealing and the begging and the crying and they just sound like they're in constant horrible pain. I don't know. Do the guys really get off on that? Do the women have to be so subservient at all times?
Like, I don't want to do this, but...
Yeah. It hurts. Oh, it hurts. Really? You're not a virgin. You're not, 14. Grow up. But, hey, that seems to be the way that
And there's a
in those
great
countries.
fight scene of him going down a hallway.
Yeah. He's
and
fighting dozens of people.
Yeah, and he actually gets a knife stuck into his back halfway through the fight.
But nothing puts him down.
Oh man, he ends up beating all of them.
All of them to death. Half of them to death.
Well,
Yeah.
Anyways, I just thought, wow.
Well, and how has he become this master fighter? By shadowboxing in his prison cells.
slugging the wall.
Punching the wall, yeah.
Okay, the other movie we got is another Korean movie called I Saw the Devil. Give us the deets, Mark.
I'm not going to even bother with who stars in it or anything like that.
You got a director, maybe?
We got a director, Kim Ji-wong.
Okay.
And a writer, Hu Jung Park.
Okay.
You know, who are these people? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I know.
All I know is it's very similar in the style of about Oldboy.
Right.
And again, it had this scene, this very violent scene of this guy beating up, against all odds, a whole bunch of people. But I found that those were the commonality in it.
Right.
This guy's fiance is killed. He's a police officer of some sort of detective.
Right.
And his fiance is stuck out in the middle of the boonies with a flat tire, and she's waiting for...
That's right.
She's waiting for a truck to come in to help her, and this old guy in a van stops and offers his assistance.
Yeah.
Now, she's inside with the locked doors and the window, and she says, no, thank you. And she's on the phone with her fiancé.
That's right, yeah, who's the cop.
Yeah, who's the cop.
He's more like a CIA kind of guy.
Yeah.
He's a bodyguard to high-ranking politicians
and
stuff. He's more like a government agent than a cop. So he's got special abilities that a cop wouldn't necessarily have.
Yeah. And the guy says, well, no, don't trust the guy there. Just tell him to go away. She does that. She says, okay, I'll do that. And she hangs up. Well, the guy goes back to his van, and next thing you know, he appears, and he's smashing her windshield, and then
a small axe.
And then smashes, and then
So he's got a hammer. He's got a horrible blunt hammer.
Yeah, and ends up smashing the window on the driver's side door and dragging her out of it.
Beats her to death first.
He loves to bludgeon people.
Yeah.
This guy.
Well, that's right. No, he doesn't kill her, does he?
No, he takes her.
And that was something I found a little silly in this movie. This is his method of subduing victims is to crack them on the head with this small sledgehammer so that they're bleeding profusely, and yet they're okay.
They end up living.
They're all right.
And then he takes them away and does his thing with them.
Yeah. That's right.
And turns out that she was pregnant, and she's begging for her life.
And the baby.
And he doesn't show any mercy whatsoever. Anyway, so the cop, or the Secret Service guy, he's offered time off because of stress.
Yeah.
And he says, no, I'll be back in 2 weeks. I'll be back in 2 weeks.
They say take your time, and he says, I'll be done in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And he goes on a mission to track this guy down.
Yeah, and so they have a list of suspects, like 4 or 5 guys that they think might have done this. So he just starts with the first guy, tracks him down,
beats the crap
out of him, finds out he didn't do it, and kills him. And
I don't think he kills him.
I think he does.
I
think he does.
That.
Anyway, he goes through the list, and the third guy in is the guy.
Bingo.
And so he finds out who it is, and he decides that he's not going to kill this guy. Mm-hmm. He's going to put a GPS transmitter down his throat when he's unconscious, so he doesn't know how he's being followed.
A buddy of his who's in the gizmos section of the Secret Service gives him all these special toys to play.
Anyway, so
it's like James Bond.
He does
on a Korean revenge mission.
Exactly. Yeah. He makes him swallow that, and then he just drops him off, and the guy wakes up. I guess this is all this guy does is stalk women and murder them, because you would think he would be...
And he goes right back to it.
Yeah, it's like...
Instead of the guy, exacting his revenge and killing him, he lets him go so that he can toy with them, but after he's let him go, the guy goes on to kill many more people.
Yeah.
This is not a hero.
No.
This agent.
So every time he's about to kill whoever his next victim in, the agent would show up and pound the living crap out of him, break his fingers, do all sort of and then he'd drop him off again.
Yeah, that's right.
And he
takes a lot of punishment, that guy.
Yeah, so you don't know who to vote for in this movie because you don't really feel sympathy for either person.
Well, there's a monster, and then there's a guy who's become a monster.
And so the kicker is, towards the end of the movie, the guy figures out that he's got the GPS in him.
Right.
And he gets
it out.
And now he's out for his revenge against this guy.
Yeah.
So he's going to go after his friends.
Yeah.
And so it's a cat and mouse thing, chasing back and forth.
Yeah, and the cat changes into the mouse and vice versa.
Yeah, so I found it an interesting movie.
Yeah.
And I liked it.
Yeah, moved right along.
But at the same time, I found it a little disgusting in that both of these people were real idiots.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. No,
they did stupid things.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I can understand wanting to
have revenge
for,
but not letting him go out and kill more people.
I know that was
or
crazy.
Even if he didn't get to kill them, he tortured them.
Yeah, no, he does. He definitely
he does kill some people, but some people get away because the guy shows up.
The agent shows up. He bides his time, and he shows up when this guy's about to do what he did to the poor little pregnant wife.
Yeah.
He breaks in when the guy's having his most fun with the raping and the murdering. So he does save a couple of young women, but there's plenty of others who are not saved.
I think both of them should be in jail.
Yeah, indeed.
At the end of it.
So let's just go back through the movies. Man of Steel, 2 thumbs down to coin a phrase. Byzantium, we both like that. Mark and I both like that. Chupacabra versus the Alamo.
Oh, you got to see it. No.
if it's playing on a television and you're anywhere near it, I'm sorry for you. Oldboy and I Saw the Devil, both Korean movies and both worth seeing.
Both subtitled.
Yep.
I found that some of the subtitles went by really quick. It was most of the time it was quite readable.
Yeah. Well, if you're watching it on video, you can slow it down or pause it.
Whoa.
Yeah. Okay, folks. So we're going to wrap this episode of the Horror Movie Show up. Hope you had fun listening, and drop us a line sometime.
Well, I have to mention that Godzilla is being shot in Vancouver. The new Godzilla movie.
Is it just being called Godzilla?
I have no idea what the full title is, but the newest version is being shot here. And they've been dressing up parts of the city.
As wreckage
and things like that. They're using Steveston, I guess, as a fishing port of some sort.
Yeah.
And they're using parts of New West, actually.
Oh.
Downtown New West, and they have all these Japanese signs hanging around.
Oh, that's funny.
Hanging up. So it's obviously positioned as
lots of Asians here for extras, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. But so I look forward to that.
Okay, well, we'll be talking about that
when it comes out
within the year, I suppose.